Hey, this is Scott Weinberg once again for The Horror Show. Have you ever heard of these monsters called zombies? Zombies with Z? They're a little bit obscure now. They used to be more popular, but anyway, the point is, as you well know, zombies are everywhere. TV, games, movies, nonstop, everywhere. And when something becomes super popular, you get a lot of junk. Not everything is The Walking Dead, right? So hopefully we can pick through some of the junk and focus on the better examples. And at Horror Show, we have a handful of zombie films, all a little bit old, but definitely worth watching. They're actually three of my favorite zombie films. The first one is City of the Living Dead from Lucio Fulci, 1980. We covered this briefly in an earlier episode, so I'll just keep it short. The gates of hell are opening, and it's causing all sorts of not only outrageously gory zombie mayhem, but Lovecraft references and chases and people being buried alive and crazy random nightmare logic kind of horror. You should definitely check that one out. That would be my number one zombie pick on the whole site, perhaps. City of the Living Dead. It's followed in an unofficial trilogy by The Beyond and House by the Cemetery. Most horror fans would agree that The Beyond is the best of the three, but they're all worth watching. City of the Living Dead is my favorite of the three, aka The Gates of Hell, as we say in America, sometimes still. Secondly would be George Romero's second sequel, Day of the Dead, from 1985. The interesting thing about Day of the Dead is it gets a little bit more interesting as you get older. When I was younger, I loved Night of the Living Dead, but I thought it was a bit old-fashioned. Loved Dawn of the Dead, but was a bit too young to get the satire of it. I kind of got the mall angle, but I didn't really get why it was funny. And when Day of the Dead came out in 1985, I didn't know anything about the military-industrial complex. I didn't know much about politics, so I wasn't a big fan of it as a kid. Day of the Dead, as you watch it now, it still has some ripe performances.
They can be tricked into being good little girls and boys, the same way we were tricked into it, on the promise of some reward to come.
It's a bit longer and draggier in spots than it needs to be, but it also has Bub, the zombie, who shows a small glimmer of evolution. I guess if Romero is working for an arc, that would be an interesting one, that the zombies are not completely brainless, and obviously he's taking firm swipes at Reaganomics and what was prevalent in the mid-'80s, and as an adult, I appreciate Day of the Dead a lot more.
They're dead! They're fucking dead, and you want to teach them tricks?
Connected to that is a brand new film we also have at Horror Show, which I really like a lot, and I'm glad that I did because we're trying to get you to watch it as well. It's called Birth of the Living Dead, and it is a documentary just about Night of the Living Dead 68. The social impact that it had, the cultural impact, the repercussions that it has had over many, many, many movies, TV shows, books, games, you name it.
Persons who have recently died have been returning to life.
That's Romero speaking from the times about a bleakness that the culture was suffering.
And we just wanted to make as ballsy a horror film as we could make.
Many good interviews. I'm one of those guys who was like, I know 70% of this stuff going in. 20 minutes of Birth, I really was impressed by the passion and the insight. And of course, George Romero is adorable in the film. He's like the grandfather every horror geek wants to have. So, City of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead 85, and Birth of the Living Dead, I definitely recommend here on The Horror Show TV. Thank you for listening.
Are they slow moving, Chief? Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.